thanks for being here this morning. When I look back at the time that it took to pass these referendums, like it was 8 years of running referendums, and it was misery. It was hard. It made our community divided. It was an icky time to live in Mora. But now, 2023, and I look back at what we have a brand new elementary, a Wellia Center, which is a big field house, and a brand new high school. And it was definitely worth it, but it wasn't fun getting to where we're at.
I'm Jeff Schultz with ICS. I'm glad to be here with you today. A lot of friendly faces and different folks doing projects with us, so I appreciate it. One thing I really appreciate now is handicap accessibility. I've had hip replacement surgery a couple weeks ago. This is my first time out of the house, and I think my wife could be more happy than anybody else right now that I'm here. So I'm glad to be here with you. So we're excited to share with you the journey that we've been on and some of the partnership and opportunities that have come along the way.
Yeah, so our goals and objectives here, we're just going to go through our objectives, and we'll talk a little bit about, like I said, about our history and story, and hopefully by the end you'll have a little roadmap of master planning for your district, however big or small, and then we'll have some time for some questions. So again, focus in on the master planning and how important that is, how community partnerships can help your process, and then identify necessary steps in order to plan your facilities. So I'll let you do this, Brent.
Yeah, so let me back up. So 2012 is I signed a contract. I was a teacher in Underwood. Anyone know where Underwood is? Good. I like saying that outside of school because no one ever knows. Like, where's Underwood? Then I was in Alexandria as the assistant principal. And I was lucky because I got to be there while they designed their new high school. But then I left to Mora during that time. And when I got to Mora, I started on July 1, 2012. And they had a vote right away in August. And we got slaughtered. It was 2-1, no votes to yes votes. And that was for elementary school and high school. Is that right? And that was kind of my welcome to Mora. And then from then on, the next 8 years was lots of different referendums. Sometimes just the elementary, sometimes an elementary and a high school, eventually a field house, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But the community, if you know Mora, at that time in 2012, we had 3 schools. We had a primary school, an intermediate school, and a high school. One south of town, one north of town, high school right downtown. And the problem is we had not one building falling apart, but 2 were falling apart. Water coming in the basement, poor air and water quality, high school safety. We didn't even have a secure entrance. You walked in, if anyone ever went to Mora High School during the school day, you got buzzed in and you were right at a stairwell. You could go anywhere you wanted in the school. We didn't have any office, no vestibule right there. You had to travel throughout the school to check in. So we had a lot of needs in Mora, and it was a tough time for our school board to try to decide what to do, and we ran lots of different plans, and ICS helped us a lot. So yeah.
So the journey, and I, if you look at the last 8 years, they passed 3 referendums. So I'll just give you a recap of them, and then we'll talk a little bit of how we got there. So in 2015, they passed a referendum for a new elementary school. And this was to move their elementary school up to their, call it their Trailview campus, which was forethought by the board many, 30 years ago to build their newest school with plenty of land. So they had a 80-acre parcel, and they had some real forethought on making sure they have enough land for the possibility of adding on or expanding their campus. And so this passed in 2015. And then as part of the design process of the elementary school, we had gym spaces and community space. The local hospital had discussions about maybe building a wellness center. And their first thought was a wellness center, maybe about $1 million. And we encouraged the two to get together and visit. They brought their leadership together from both the school district and the hospital. And then they really started going to work pen to paper together about what might it look like if they joined forces. And the district used some of their dollars from the elementary school project, married it with some of the hospital dollars. Well, this project and concept grew and grew and grew, and eventually ended up becoming the MREA Wellness Center, which is about a $10.5 million project, district splitting it along with the hospital. And they built it on the school campus and connected it then to this new elementary school and the existing school that they had. Partnerships are awesome. They're a lot of work. They're more work than doing it on your own, right? You got to compromise and work together. But as the two worked together, it was a fantastic partnership, bringing the community, the healthcare, and the school district together. One of the things that we looked at was how does the school district fund their $5 million portion? Well, $1.5 million of it was covered under their referendum that they had just passed, but they were short about $3.5 million for their commitment. And so we worked together with Ellers, the financial advisors, and looked at a lease levy authority that you all have as school districts to add educational space, and looked at a lease levy to be able to fund the additional $3.5 million. The downside of lease levy authority is one, it's not matched by the state in any state proceeds, right? I don't know if it even qualifies for the Ag to School program these days either, right? So we decided jointly together with the district to put this on a ballot, give the voters a chance to put it on general obligation bonds instead of the lease purchase, right? So what it essentially did was lower taxes. So well, we're doing this anyways, but by voting yes, you're going to get lower taxes, right? And it allows the district to free up their lease levy authority should they use it down the road to expand their schools, right? And we're excited that that passed in 2017. And it really fused the community because it brought this partnership together. So we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But I think this is one of the key themes that we wanted to share with you was that partnership. And there's several other school districts now doing some of those. Staples, Motley, has got a partnership with their hospital. Park Rapids has been working on a partnership with their hospital, right? So this is a great opportunity for communities, especially in rural Minnesota.
One thing I was going to add is what Jeff said, $10 million for this facility, and the elementary had passed. That was step one. After that passed, we knew we needed to design a space for after school and before school care. We knew we needed DAPE space. We needed preschool space. So the district, we called it gross motor space, and it was a small square footage, probably not much bigger than this room that we're in right now. So that was the $1.5 million that was allocated for a space. The hospital came up with $5 million. So you can see this now, that left the $3.5 million that Jeff talked about with the lease levy authority.
And then the Mora High School. And the Mora High School was voted on recently in 2020 and did pass overwhelmingly, right? And this is, the high school's been on the ballot, I believe it was 6 times. It finally passed the 6th time, and it passed overwhelmingly. We're going to talk a little bit about how did we get there? How did we pass it overwhelmingly? And what was the roadmap or the strategy that went into that? So Dan and I are both going to kind of talk through this a little bit. Dan, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, so when I came to Mora, I was hired in March of 2020. So in May, they had the referendum. So Jeff will talk a little bit about what the options were. So one of the unique things that Mora did, like Jeff said, they had a vision of purchasing some land where our elementary was, and they built that in the 90s. And the goal was they kept moving like tennis courts and ball fields and things of that sort up to that area. And then the new elementary, the primary elementary, was moved up, then the wellness center, and then the whole goal was to have the high school up there. And Jeff was a part of this master planning, and you can see some of the different variations as we show you some of these slides. I'll let Jeff talk to that.
And if you're a district out there and you've ever bought a large tract of land planning for the future, all right, that's not easy to do. Aiken, is that easy to do, Dan? It's not easy. You still get criticized over the land that you have that there's nothing built on, right? Grand Rapids, is that easy to do? Right? You still get beat up over a parcel of land that you bought for the future, where you're planning for the future of your district, right? Take the bullets for future. Don't be afraid to take on those challenges for the future, right? That will serve the future boards down the road. But I know you're taking bullets for that, right? It's a wise move. There's only so much good land in your communities, in our small town communities, and we need to be thinking forward about where do we put our schools in the future. So I was hired in about 2010 by the school district. So I've been working with Mora schools for a long time. This has been quite a journey for me, and I'm pretty proud of the district and them persevering through this process. But when I was first hired, we were first hired to look at a master plan and to assess their buildings. And when we assessed their buildings, and they knew it, 2 of the 3 of their buildings, it's time. It's time to replace 2 of the 3 of the buildings. So my first piece of advice for those in the room is don't ever get to where you have to replace 2/3 of your district square footage. Because the cost to do that it's a lot, and it's probably more than your taxpayers can afford, right? So if there's one thing that in this journey, Mora had to do it over time, because they couldn't bite the elephant all in one bite. They had to break it into smaller chunks, right? But keep up on your facility improvements and be thinking long term so that you don't end up in that situation where you're trying to change 2/3 of your buildings at one time, right? And then be thoughtful and be proactive. So the different meetings that went into the master plan visioning in 2010, oh my God, we probably had 40, 50 community meetings, bringing people together, getting their vision. What would we do? What would the future Mora schools look like? And overwhelmingly, a plan emerged. And the plan emerged to bring all the schools onto one campus, the land that the district bought a long time ago where we have one school, and let's start working towards that vision. And we had strong unity between all board members and with strong community support that that's the right vision of the future for Mora schools. You'll see just some different images of the master plans. We went back and looked at them over time. But all of them had various iterations of adding the high school onto the elementary campus and bringing all the schools together. And this drawing now shows some different aspects of bringing and tying the high school on. But then the Wellia Center screwed up the original master plan, because a big field house and then between the schools, sandwiched between the schools, was not part of the master plan, right? But when the Wellia Center came, we knew where it fit. It fit right connected in the middle between the buildings, allowing access from both the elementary school and the high school programs to utilize that space. As we shifted to the focus of the high school, by having the field house and the Wellia Center there, we could take a gym off the high school plan. Well, that saves $2.4 million off of the cost of your referendum and helps bring it a little more into something that might be more affordable for taxpayers. As you can see, we started getting architects instead of this little engineer starting to draw, and you could really start to see the vision a lot clearer. The architect that we worked on all 3 projects in partnership with Wold. Wold was the architect that worked for ICS on all 3 projects, and continually did a great job for the district. And as we started looking at the components and how they all fit together, in this vision you can see that athletic fields were under construction. So we're always thoughtful on where would our athletic facilities go. So as the district was building their campus over time, we didn't put the tennis courts where they're shown here, but we were really thoughtful and said, where do we put things so that we don't have to move them later? That we don't say, crap, I wish we want to put that there. But we were always trying to think forward looking on the master plan. So from some of the early vision in May of 2015 to where they're at today, it's pretty exciting to see the district with their grand opening. I'm going to turn it over to Dan and Brent to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that the district has along the way.
Sure. I wanted to add one thing. Jeff mentioned how important it is to have a vision. You know, over 8 years, I'm guessing your boards change a little bit, right? We had new board members with new ideas on what we should run as far as a ballot. And we had board members that thought we should go with different companies even, you know, ICS versus some of the competitors. And one thing that really helped Mora is we kept the vision. We want to have one K-12 campus. We have the spot. No matter what board members came on, they knew that was the plan. We want to get all of our kids, all of our staff to one piece of property. And then when you think about working with different companies, every time, you know, we ran a vote, there was a strong vote no committee, and they would bash whatever the company was and say, oh, they're wasting money, it's way too expensive, we can fix up this school for $1 million with paint and some duct tape, right? That's what we hear, that's what we heard in our community. But by sticking with, so we chose ICS, by sticking with them throughout this whole process, every time we went with a new plan, we hit the ground running because they knew where our district was at, the quality of our buildings, the community we were in, etc.
Yeah, and you know, coming to Mora, the facilities were, like Jeff said, not very good. The new elementary was built on. The high school was the focus in 2018, 2019, 2020. And I think in November they came really close, within 50 votes of passing it, and then they ran it again in May. So, you know, schools don't get enough money to keep their facilities up, but and so Mora was in a desperate situation where they had to basically redo all their facilities. Brent talked about a strong vote no group. Brent was on the vote yes committee, and like I said, that was before I came, but they did a lot of work with communications, which we'll talk about, positive communications. Talked to a few people before this presentation, and you know, you're always going to have people that are going to vote no matter what. And so trying to reframe your focus on, okay, let's focus on the people that are going to vote yes, or maybe not vote yes. And Jeff will talk about one strategy here in a few slides, but that was a big challenge, both of those things, the facilities and the vote no groups.
One challenge that the district had is vote no people would then try to be on the school board, right? And as they ran for school board each time, Mora School District was fortunate that they didn't get elected, right? So even though they were successful in defeating the referendum several times, they weren't elected to the school board. And so what's interesting is from 2010 all the way till today, the school board that's been in place, and it's changed, people have changed, come and go throughout that time period, but every school member is always unanimously in support of the vision that was established in 2010, right? This is our vision, this is where we're going, unified campus, right? And it's always been unanimous. And I think that's an important piece. If you do your planning well at the beginning, you can keep that vision throughout the adversity and the negativity, right? So I think that's one big thing. Here's another one, and this is bold leadership by the school superintendent, bold leadership by the school board, right? When they set their vision, they then stopped major investments in their buildings that they were going to replace. They said, we're not going to do major improvements to our high school. We're going to not do major improvements to our elementary school, right? Because we don't want to put brand new windows in a building and then the no people are going to say, you just put brand new windows in there, right? They're going to defer those, right? And so they're going to continue on their journey forward, right? Now that gets pressure against some teachers, staff, and needs that you might have in your building. So it was really a bold move by the school board. Now they still patched roofs and things like that, but they didn't put a 30-year roof on a building that they were hoping to be out of, right? So
Well, hey, can I ask real quick, how many of you have been in districts where you've run bond referendums? And how many of you have been involved in that? Do you remember how it felt? Just thankless. You know, you don't have, it's not part of your job. It's extra time on top of your normal job. Divides your community. It's icky. I remember moving to Mora thinking, why did I come here? This is where we're at. We need to pass 2 schools, and it was draining. I hated the town I lived in for a while. I would drive to work. I only had 3.5 miles to go, and I would drive by so many vote no. You know, this corner, big vote no sign. Next corner, big vote no sign. And it just kind of took it. I had 3 kids. My wife's a teacher, and it just drains you. So I want to acknowledge that right now, that it's so difficult. I don't know, if you haven't been through it, you can't really explain it. But in the end, it's so worth it. And if you look at statistics, most districts take multiple times before they pass it. So I would encourage, you know, every district to not give up. It's a long haul. Oh, yeah. So I'm curious, real quick. Anyone ever heard of Paul Dorr? Okay, I hear people chuckling. So Paul Dorr, what we learned in Mora is that we had our Vote No group was paying a consultant named Paul Dorr. And if you Google him, you'll find out that he believes in religious-based homeschooling, and he thinks that public school is the enemy and it's going to ruin our nation. So that's kind of what motivates him. He's got a legal background, and he has great strategies for defeating referendums. And basically, one of his best strategies is to confuse voters. So he'll have people going on social media and writing letters to your newspaper that just try to confuse the heck out of voters, because a confused voter is typically a no voter. One of these gentlemen talked about when you want to get, I think Mr. Voce said, a bunch of people are going to vote no matter what. That's what we learned. We learned that 1/3 of the people are voting no matter what. 1/3 are going to vote yes. They support our kids and what we're doing. So it's really that third in the middle that we're trying to sway and trying to educate. One thing I learned is that a vote yes committee should not be made up of school staff. You want to try like heck to get people from your community that are not teachers, paras, administrators, etc. It's really easy for community members to say, oh, of course you want a new office, or you want a new classroom, or you know, it's easy to point the finger and blame educators if they're chanting that we need a new school. So I would encourage you, and what worked for us eventually, we had a Vote Yes committee so dialed in. There were 10 of us. I strategically hounded certain people because of the groups that they ran with. And we worked with a strategist, Todd Rapp. Is he still doing that? Nothing but good things to say about Rapp strategies. And he gave us, I would encourage you to use that, because you don't know how to word things the way the public needs to see it. At least that's what I learned. He simplified things. He added, you know, little diagrams and pictures on the social media posts we had and the newspaper articles. And so I learned a lot through that, and I'd be happy to help if I can help any of you. But one thing I would say, a focus you need to make is make sure every school employee knows the plan, knows why we're doing what we're doing. The community members are going to ask anyone that works at the school. Maybe it's a bus driver. Maybe it's a cook. Take the time to educate every staff member at your district what we're doing, why we're doing it, why we're not doing plan B, C, and D. That was a pain in the butt. I remember going over to the elementary and having them before school all come down to the music room, and I had to give my presentation and walk them through that multiple times. Going down to the bus garage, and a lot of the bus drivers and custodians and paras, you know how much money they're making, right? A lot of them are vote no people. So that's a really important vote that you want to get and educate those folks. So I would say make sure you educate all of the district staff. That's huge. I would encourage a strategist. How did we pay for that?
He works for us. So Todd Rapp Todd Rapp is on a retainer with ICS on all of our projects. We continue to work together in partnership. So those that have worked on projects with us are very familiar with Todd.
So a high school that we built was a huge, huge, huge undertaking. 1 year to plan, 2 to build. I was in Alexandria before this, same thing. 1 year to plan, 2 to build. So when you think about 3 years, if you work like heck to educate the high school kid parents, and you do the math, they're probably graduated. They're probably gone. They're not as invested. I think we got more bang for our buck by zeroing in on elementary moms. Not dads, elementary moms. Women get things done. They were the movers and the shakers. The men wouldn't come to the meetings. They wouldn't be caught dead talking about this with their buddies who care about taxes. The moms, they did. They said they cared so much about their little kids, they had no problem telling people, hey, you need to vote yes. Knocking on doors, handing out flyers. I would not focus on older kids. I'd focus on the younger and aim for those moms. Yeah, another strategy we used, we called it Teachers for Truth. And if you think about 8 years of different referendums, the community was confused. They didn't know what was what. One side is saying this, and if you opened a Mora newspaper 2 months out or 1 month out before the vote, there'd be huge ads on multiple pages saying, did you know the school district is trying to build Mr. Voce a brand new office? And they were confused. So what we learned is we needed a group in the middle that was trusted by the community. And in Mora, people do trust our teachers. Our teachers are very good. They've been trusted for a long time. They came up with their own group. This was kind of a grassroots thing. 4 of them came to us and said, hey, we want to be the people who communicate the truth. We know that sometimes the district isn't saying things exactly how it should be said. We know the Vote No committee is paying a consultant to ruin this referendum, Paul Dorr. We want to be teachers for truth. We want to be vocal in the newspaper, on social media. And what they did is they took issues that would pop up, questions that the two sides would disagree on, and they would do their homework. They would interview whoever they needed to interview, and then they would post and say, hey, this is Teachers for Truth. It would be those 4 teachers' names. They happen to be very established in the community, very respected, and they shared what they found out. And what was helpful, honestly, is that they sometimes found out that the district wasn't sharing things as transparent as they could have. And that bought people. People buy into that. I think it'd be really easy for people to roll their eyes at Teachers for Truth if all they did is say, we need new facilities, Vote No is bad.
Yeah, I can't overstate how important that was, right? People were really confused. These Teachers for Truth became strong leaders in the community, and they were the trusted source of information. And they would drill the consultant. I'd get a phone call. Here's what they're saying. The opposition's saying this, or they're saying that, or tell me exactly what's in the plan or what's not in the plan. How come it says this in the review and comment, right? Those types of things. So it was very helpful that they did their homework and were that honesty group for the community. So how did we get to the summit? We also, but the district had tried the high school 6 times. This was the 6th referendum, okay? And the school board had come to terms that they might never get a new high school. It might never pass. But if it doesn't, it's time to invest. Remember, they had been holding off on major investments, and they felt like they can't hold off anymore, right? So if we don't pass it this time, we're going to stay in this high school for another 20 years, right? So then they hired ICS to do what is our backup plan? What are we going to do if we stay here? What are the non-voter approved authorities that we have? Staples Motley, right? What are the authorities that we have? And we're going to take the authorities we have to improve the health and safety for our children. We're going to take the authorities we have to take care of our roofing. We're going to change out our old boilers. We're going to make the modifications we can with the board authority we have, right? And so there was a legitimate backup plan. This wasn't a BS backup plan. Well, if voters don't pass it, we're going to do this. Literally signed the contracts with us. The board approved the contracts with us. Our contracts at that time says if the bond referendum passes, we're doing this, building a new high school. If the bond referendum fails, we're doing this. And here's our plan, right? The review and comment for the backup plan was drawn up, written, ready to go, and approved by the board to send in the day after the election if it failed, right? You talk about bold leadership, right? I'll tell you what, the superintendent, Craig Schultz, at the time, it was killing him. It was killing him. I do not want to fix up this old high school. This is a terrible idea. This is a bad idea. But if this is where the voters tell us to go, then this is where we have to go, right? So it's a pretty bold move by the district. The next item was the effective funding strategies. Again, by looking at the non-voter approved plan, you can't do it all at one time. You don't have enough authority to fix your whole high school at one time. You're going to have to split it up over time, do some indoor air quality now, do some later, do some roofing later, right? Because you don't have enough authority and funding. But we were able to lay out the funding strategies and show the different tools and the tax impact of the backup plan. And the tax impact for the backup plan was the same or more than the referendum for the brand new school. And the board was in agreement. The board was unified. I tell you what, anytime you're doing a bond referendum or any kind of levy for the community, a unified board is so huge. Do everything you can to get that last board member into the boat with you, no matter how you got to compromise, because it makes a big difference. The funding plan, if you really take a step back and look at this referendum, this last one, it was a vote between vote yes and vote no. And the vote no group's plan was to fix the high school. That's our plan for all failed referendums. Just put more money in the high school. It's fine. Just patch it, right? In a sense, the Mora School District put the opposition's plan on the ballot, right? They did. We think the right thing is to build a new one for taxpayers long term, and here's the plan. If you vote no, we're going to do your plan, and it costs more. It costs more, and it's not a smart plan. So I do think it changed a lot of voters. And if you saw the results of the election, it was overwhelmingly passed for the high school. But I think that was a key component of this of a solution. Anti-taxpayers voted for this plan because they thought the repair plan didn't make sense financially, right? I'm going to turn it over to the district for project benefits.
Okay, so obviously when you have one campus, you have a lot more efficiencies as far as staff not having to travel. You can use staff in different ways. Special ed is another big area. Now our administrative team, when we have meetings, we just walk over, get together. Busing has been huge. We have one drop-off bus. They all come to one spot. Kids get in from the elementary and the high school. So there's a lot of efficiencies. Athletics used to have all of our high school kids and junior high kids transport up to the elementary for track or baseball or softball or tennis, things of that sort. So now kids, everything's all on one campus. So a lot of efficiencies had been gained. You know, the wellness center, there's a walking track above that's open for the public, and they come all hours of the day from, I think it's 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and they can walk in the walking track. Even when school's going around, we have a secure entrance for the public, and they get to see, you know, little kindergarten kids running a lap around the wellness center. They get to see all the elementary kids participating, and you know, I don't know if there's anything better than to bring joy to a person's face and watch kindergarten and elementary kids run around. So a lot of things. We have about 400 community members that have passes to the walking track, and it's $20 for a year pass, and it basically pays for the background check. Sure.
So I was in Mora when this opened. It was called the First Light Well, actually, let me back up. So when I got to Mora, I joined the Lions Club because one of my mentors said, hey, you should always live in the community you work in. You should join the Lions. You're going to meet people that are influential, and they're going to help you get to where you want to get to. They were right. I met all sorts of leaders in the Mora Lions Club. One of them was the CEO of the hospital, and at the time it was called First Light. And I sent him a text many years ago, and I said, hey, Randy, what do you think of this, the sound of this? First Light Fieldhouse. And he still talks about that. Remember when you sent me that text? First Light Fieldhouse? Look at what we have. It has since changed from First Light Hospital to Wellia Hospital, but we could never have done this without them. So when we opened this, the FIAD teachers were scared. They're like, so you mean we're going to be teaching students and their parents are going to be watching us teach? And we're like, yeah. And I used to be a FIAD teacher, so I was nervous too. Guess what happened? It was a win-win-win. First of all, you have a lot of them were moms during the school day, and they were walking with their friends, and they're up top, classes are down below, and they see how awesome our teachers are. That was a big takeaway. Wow, these more schools, FIAD teachers are amazing. Look what they're doing with our kids. And some of them were vote no people that were walking, and they were all of a sudden seeing the great things we're doing here. You know, think of the parachute. Y'all remember doing that, right? And the kids laughing and having fun and seeing how overworked and stressed out teachers are. Firsthand experience right there. Then you have students that act up and can be a pain in the butt, and they see their mom walking up top. So, you know, it actually cut down on some behaviors as well. So that was a win-win. Welcoming the community in, I would say, is always a win-win. This year, we just started welcoming volunteers into the high school. They come in the mornings, they hold the door open, and they greet students with a handshake and a smile and a good morning. That's a skill teenagers don't have anymore. They look at their cell phone all day. They don't know how to look us in the eyes. So anytime you can bring in outsiders, I think is a big win.
Yep. Okay, Jeff. We're getting a little behind, so we'll try to kind of. So some of the features of the new high school, we have a lot of community spaces for students that our special ed staff and students run a coffee shop. We have a free clothing store, a free food pantry for students. So, and that's available for the community. That's what you see when you walk into our school. Our CTE area was something that we wanted to highlight for the whole school. So we have a whole CTE wing with all the career, business, facts, art, metals, woods, autos. We have a CNA program through Pine Tech. They come over and bring staff and teach, which is really important for our community. This is the Wellia portion of the wellness center. So they do OT, PT, a lot of for the community. They'll come up there and then they'll use the walking track. Here's some pictures of the new Mora High School taken by Steve back there. He did a wonderful job of capturing what it looks like at Mora schools, and it's a beautiful facility. Some of the lessons that we've learned, community partnerships are powerful, as we mentioned, and they can be leveraged to help you build facilities if you get the right people involved. And then local businesses can and want to be a part of that process. So this is kind of the handout that we wanted to put together for you, so you just can kind of see the different steps. Jeff, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, I'll go through the first two. The first was really one of the successful steps here was creating a really strong, unified master plan, right? So really taking the time to assess your buildings, get a future, get a plan for that future, set that vision, communicate it wide and well. Secondly is to collaborate. Collaborate. Make sure your school board, administration, staff understand the plan. They're part of the plan. They get the plan. it might feel like you're saying the same thing over and over and over, but making sure everybody understands and a collaborative effort for the plan. Be informative. Again, your staff, make sure your staff, if there's something I can tell you out there, you take for granted that you think all the folks in your school is voting yes for your plan. And you actually take for granted, you expect that they're going to the polls to vote. Well, they don't, right? They don't understand the plan. And I'll tell you that you talked about bus drivers. You want to find out where your community's at, go to the bus barn. Pat, right? You hear the rumors and the negativity that come from the bus guy. They're opposed to whether you're getting your message out or not. I'm going to turn to Dan and talk about 3 Ps.
So I did my grand opening speech and I talked about the 3 Ps. So Jeff loves it. Patience, perseverance, and persistence. And I guess that was one of the messages that when I came to Mora, I saw, like Brent said, we have a strong vision, we have a strong plan. We had to run it several times, but we're not giving up, we're not giving in, we're going to stay unified, we're not going to let people break us apart, and we're going to do what's right for our community and our students. So those 3 Ps are important. And then the communication, like we mentioned, Brent talked a lot about the Vote Yes Committee and RAP strategies. Using a professional marketer is key because, like Brent said, the other side are using some of the same tools, and if you're short a tool, that might make a difference. Okay, where to find community partnerships? So we came up with this graphic trying to find out where there's overlap between Wellia Health, like the walking track, and they were looking for space to help some of the rehab patients and things like that. It started with a text. The district had some common goals. We needed a space for preschool and special ed students and for our Mustang care, before and after school care. And the community of Mora also was looking for more economic development. How do we bring people into our city, into our community? How do we educate our community members? How do we allow our community members to use our school spaces? So it was really a win-win-win in that sweet spot in the middle where everybody benefited from the wellness center and the new high school. I don't know if you've been to Mora at like a youth basketball or youth wrestling or anything like that. I mean, the amount of people that brings into your community to not only see and spend money within your community, businesses can understand that.
Just to talk, just for context of the Mora Wellness Center and the fact that they're connected to the high school and the elementary school. You think about a rural community where they have 8 full-size basketball courts all connected together between the school and the wellness center. 8 full-time, full-size volleyball, right? All connected together, right? It's unheard of, right? So the ability to have tournaments and bring people to the community is awesome. Secondly, the Wellia Center was built big enough to have an indoor track, including pole jump, right, and long jump pits inside as well, right? So in the spring, when everybody's still got snow on the ground, they're hosting meets. They're bringing folks from all over the place to the community of Mora. So we put a little video together just to wrap up our presentation that really will give you a little highlight of about 2-3 minutes long of the Mora High School.
Welcome to Mora High School. We're very blessed. The community of Mora has stepped up for our students, our staff, and our entire community with such a wonderful building.
I'm the father of 2 sons in the Mora school system. I think the building that is the new Mora High School is something to be really proud of. It's a state-of-the-art, quality, wonderful space for our kids to learn.
I would say our staff and students have always been pretty good. It's just nice to have like an outside that matches the inside.
Some of the most important things we were looking for when we designed this building, number 1 was student safety.
One of the important things that I think this new high school has is a common single entry point. Some specific security features of the new secure entrance of the Mora High School include some video followed by a face-to-face visit with staff to ensure that that person should be here. And if they are, that's great, welcome. And if they're not allowed into the high school. And I think as a student to see that every day when you come to school, it's secure yet inviting. That's the way school should be.
Some of the new features of the new Mora High School are second to none in our area as far as athletic, fine art facilities, and just learning spaces.
The theater was definitely falling apart, so this one's really nice.
Having this updated space has given a real sense of pride to when we go to practice and rehearsal.
The classrooms are designed for students. There's some extra learning spaces outside of the classrooms.
We want there to be student learning at the forefront.
If you look closely at our building, you're going to see classrooms that have barn door style doors that open up and empty out into flex spaces. So students can work independently out there and teachers can watch them, or student groups can meet. Two classes could work together.
It's been really cool to see the collaboration and just the openness that this building's allowed our students to have.
Because we have so much glass looking out into the hallways, students are way more on task when they're using those spaces. They're actually being really productive.
Adjacent to that, we actually have a work lab where students can learn some industrial trades. The trades are extremely important for not just our community, but for our country. And we wanted to showcase that skilled labor is a great career field to get into. They can find some job skills and create a resume so that they can be as employable as possible in our community.
It means that they have a lot more opportunities in the future. It means that they're more competitive in the workplace.
I would say the most exciting thing for me has been watching our students react to their new place of learning and the pride that they have in the building.
The building's now open, the great things that we are seeing and that your students are experiencing. I can't thank the community enough.
I would really like to thank our community for stepping up to provide this educational space for our students. It really shows that you believe in kids.
Presentation, and I think we're open for questions.
All right, I can do the first two. We do have turf on the field. It was a fundraising project that the Booster Club did. So they raised all the fund for the artificial turf. We were going to have a field up there anyways. The auditorium is 505, 506, something like that. And then the wellness center, I think
It was after Foley's, your community's field house. The Foley Field House. No, you don't have a walking track. But let me just share a great story, by the way. So 2010, when we're doing listening sessions, and those that have worked with me, I would do Post-it note things. People can give their thoughts and ideas. One of the things we asked a question, and it was an older gentleman in a room, and we asked what should be part of the new high school. And first sticky note from somebody was a field house like Foley's. Exactly what it said, right? And then when we started and flipped things around, what shouldn't we have in our high school? The very first Post-it note was a field house like Foley, right? And the gentleman that wrote that Post-it note, not to have a field house like Foley, was the one that was on the board for the hospital that made the motion to put $5 million towards a field house, better than Foley's, for the school district. Right? So anyways, an interesting story, right?
That was a good question. Our old high school had 900 seats in the auditorium, so we just had our first round of band concerts here, and we have 7th grade band, 8th grade band, and then kind of like a JV and then a top band. We did have to change that up now because we don't have the amount of seats going from 900 to 500. We kind of do 7th and 8th grade first. We kick everybody out, and then they come back in for the high school. Good question. We had user groups, and we interviewed all of the big music gurus and art gurus in our community, and they said more intimate is actually better than, 900 is, for our size school, is probably too big. And it used to be a basketball gym, if you know our community. You had a question.
Good question. That was also feedback that the district got throughout all the referendums is, we don't want an old high school sitting around because Ogilvie kind of had a similar situation where, the building just sat there. So we are demolishing it, and it's by the end of November it'll be no more, and then we'll put the property up for sale. So that was actually part of the ballot question. Is when you vote for this referendum, you're also voting to demolish the high school. We did a lot of nice things with the old high school because people had an attachment to it. So we had a final walkthrough that the public, we had people from all over the state come and walk through the old high school. We did a lot of videos of the old high school, took a lot of pictures. So we have all those things captured. Yeah, so they decided to demolish it.
And the same went for the elementary school, right? And the elementary school is right downtown, right on the main strip at 65. Anybody's aware of it, right? And that question came up right away from the beginning, right? So the board was conscious to make sure they had the demolition costs included in their bond referendum plan. And they demoed that elementary. It's a quick trip today. As you go by, there's a quick trip where the old elementary school used to be. But that helped tell the story also for the high school. Yeah, go ahead.
So when you were had the vision for this campus, was it more listening to the community and just putting the pieces together, what the community said, or was it, well, we have this vision, we have this land, aren't you on board with this?
No, it was really getting them to be part of it, right? What do you think? What should we do, right? Being fact-based, transparent, open, honest. Here's the state of our buildings. Here's the needs of our buildings. And here's how many acres we have here. Here's how many acres we have here. Here's how many acres we have here. Here's what Minnesota Department of Education guidelines are for how many acres you should have, right? The high school and the elementary schools were on really small lots, right? So there was no room for expansion or growth, right? So it leads everybody to the obvious. It makes more sense to take advantage of the 80 acres you have and bring your campus together. And then you start talking about the efficiencies. Now you listen to Dan talk about the efficiencies by bringing all the schools together, right? With those efficiencies, we're dealing with budget cuts all the time. Boy, if you can save $1 million by bringing all your buildings together on your general fund, that's a big deal, long term, forever, right? So that's some of where the district's at today. Yeah. Other question.
How much is the stadium portion of that cost? And how much do you think a bare minimum stadium similar to that would cost?
I think I know the answer to that approximately. So before the project started, the football field was not going to be moved up until after, and the track was already up there. So what the board did is, and ICS helped us with this too, put some projections together, is instead of waiting until after the high school is built and then bring equipment in and go out and get bids again, we have everybody there, let's just have the football field and track completed. And so the board voted, it was kind of a gutsy move, but they said, okay, we'll do the football field, we'll do the track, we'll do all the athletic fields, practice fields, things like that, and we'll loan ourselves $1 million, and then when we sell the property, we should get close to $1 million. We have about 14 acres, and then we have a parking lot across the street. So right now we're looking into selling the property. So I would say it's close to $1 million to build the facilities that we had. $400,000 for the turf, and then all the things like the bleachers and things like that. And then we bought some land some more land to build our practice fields and things like that. So I would say a rough estimate would be, $1 million, $1.2 million to build all those facilities.
Great land opportunity for anyone interested in Mora.
Yeah.
Great opportunity.
And the track we didn't move, so we were able to use LTFM funds for building a new track, which was about $900,000 for a new track. So.
And they did raise $400,000 from the community for the turf field, right?
A question to that. To that point, how hard is it to raise money from the community for a big project like this?
Depends who you have asking, and and how you go about it. We had a couple sponsors on the field, so they got to put their names on the field, and they gave $10,000 for 10 years. So there's $200,000 right there. And then they had some donors, like football boosters from past Mora teams. Somebody matched up to $50,000. I don't know, they had some anonymous donor that matched up to 50. So once the football boosters raised 50, there was another 100,000.
Now, make sure you understand that the referendum did not include a turf football field, right? No talk about it, we're not doing it, we're gonna use the old football field, we don't need it, right? People love the old football field. It wasn't until after it passed that then there was a concerted effort to, what if we do it right, we do it all at one time? What do you think? Think we can go fundraise? Can we get people involved? Can we get people excited, right? And that was strategic, because sometimes a turf field could bring out a lot of no people. I want you to get a new high school, but I don't like that. Those damn athletics, right? So, other questions?
Like you did a great job.
Yeah, turned out awesome. If you ever need anything from Brent or myself or Jeff, certainly we'd be willing to help however, whenever we can. So.
What is your enrollment?
We have about 1,600 students, 800 at the elementary and 800 at the high school. And we're hoping to add to that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.